Hey everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan, and the Ripple quarterly results came out. And I know some people just don't have what it takes to enjoy the numbers, so they get bored with it. Well, here is a perfect visual for you. It was made by The Block, and it shows what really matters to the XRP holders. On the 1.75 million dollars that were sold, the XRP that were sold, it's represented there in Q1 on 2020 on the far right, and it is just the institutional sales, OTC, down 86% from even the previous quarter. You can see that for now 2 different quarterly reports that they have reported thus far in a row, they have completely pulled back on all their programmatic sales that occurred on the cryptocurrency exchanges. And also the ODL, the on-demand liquidity network volume, tripled. So in regards to talking about quarterly results, I'm asked all the time what's going on with Stellar and Stellar Lumens. And I will tell you that Stellar produced their very first report, ever, in a written format. And also there is a webinar posted on YouTube. The platform is being used. I can find that, but I'm sorry. In all my research, I cannot find any Lumens project or any case cited. I can find the Stellar platform being used. There's a big project recently in Nigeria. So the Crypto Associate Research, when I just go over to take a look at what is Jed up to, you can see that they released their report about 12 hours ago summarizing the XRP sales by the Ripple co-founder. And for April 2020, after receiving the 55 million, they tracked all the outgoing transactions, which mostly went to Bitstamp, the exchange Bitstamp. And this actually is the address here, and the username, just so you know, if you've got it correct, if you want to track it yourself, is called Taco Stand. And it's pretty much been traded into USD, and it goes into a wallet that currently holds 8 million. So the total sales transactions were almost $400,000 of XRP per day in April. So that is still, a sizable amount. Okay, so 4 hours ago too, Stellar, the foundation, also announced that they are going to ink a deal with Elliptic. Elliptic tracks suspicious and fraudulent activities, and they are doing that for adding more transparency for criminal prevention and regulatory requirements. It's a very important function for the banks. And last September, SBI Holdings in Japan actually led a round of funding, 23 million in that fundraise. And the company, this is very, very important to provide regulators that green light for crypto asset use, for all use cases, actually. Okay, just take a look at this. This is a perfect example of multiple fintech companies in just one country, Spain. And you can see this is lending, financial infrastructure, accounting, personal finance, currencies, investments, and at the end here we've got payments, all stacked in their silos. This really visually also can show you how those silos stack. Well, Marjan Delatinne, the global head of banking for Ripple, on April 25th, she wrote an article. And she talks about the emerging markets today in Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. And we know that these are very strong for Ripple, the company, in terms of laying those rails down and getting prepared for ODL. This is what offers the big growth opportunity for payment companies right now. And do you know that there are 80 different remittance providers? It's just really unbelievable. So what she said in her article is that we have seen a trend of acquisitions and partnerships, and consolidation is happening. So many choices. This tends to split the customer base. So she predicts that there's going to be more cooperation and not so much competition in the future. Now, here's an example of consolidation. This is Santander. They have invested in Ripple, and they completed their 50.1% stake in the UK fintech eBury on April 29th. eBury is, wow, it's a big issuer of payments, more than 140 different currencies that they work in. They mostly cater to the SMEs, the small to middle-sized enterprises, and they have 43,000 active companies that they provide that service to. And it's interesting that they use the Salesforce.com for their office staff, but it is important to know, as a XRP holder and a person who follows Ripple closely, they do offer an API for third-party integrations. So Santander acquired them to support their expansion plans in Latin America and Asia, just those two regions that Marjan talked about. So lastly, I want to go a little deeper into a breaking story from a press release that occurred on Wednesday. And this is from the Arab Bank Switzerland. They have been actually providing this bridge between the Arab and Western world for more than 50 years. And they have decided to add XRP to its full suite of digital asset services. And this includes their advisory, their custody, their brokerage, and they did it through a strategic investment where they contributed or led actually a round of a Series A funding to the Taurus Group. And in this, I'm telling you, 100% pure and simple, this is adoption. This is it. Taurus is building the most robust, regulatory compliant digital asset infrastructure in the world. And their client base, institutional investors, meaning investment banks, private banks, commercial banks, crypto banks, technology companies, and exchanges in Europe. Very key, right? We all know that in on-demand liquidity corridors, we need someone to facilitate that XRP, and this just might be one of those future exchanges. So XRP will be added in May, and you can see that they have a concentration of deep liquidity and they are compliant. Okay, I'm jumping to the fluff already. What you see here is a classic Japanese reception hall. Actually, it's a state guest house that was built in 1897. It's called Rinkokaku, and it is now designated as an important cultural property. But to support and to give thanks to all the medical workers around the world that are working so hard, there's this global trend to light up buildings and other landmarks at night in blue. And the invention of the blue LED, it actually comes from Japan, and they won that physics Nobel Prize in 2014. And I think it's just unbelievably beautiful when it's lit up in the blue. I just think it's something that really caught on strong, too, in Japan. Here is a very famous suspension bridge. It's the largest suspension bridge in the world. It's the Akashi Kaikyo Bridge. It links Kobe to one of the islands. It's really beautiful, this 4 kilometers with the blue light at the top. I think this is really spectacular. And then the next one I wanted to show you was the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building. Looks pretty good, but it looks better than a castle in blue. This is the Okayama Castle, and it's known as the Crow Castle due to its black exterior. It was originally built in 1597. It was partially destroyed in the war, but it has been brought back to its original beauty with a reconstruction that took place in 1966. And check out this photo. So what you're seeing is from the ground up onto this magnificent black and white castle, the Crow's Castle. I think it's my favorite castle in Japan. The walls there are called ishigaki. It's a stone wall. And unlike Europe, it doesn't use any mortar. And it's really, you can clearly see this is the old wall from here down, and this is when they did the new construction. And the old wall is just still looking pretty darn good for as old as it is. Now, the reason why they don't use mortar is because in case of an earthquake, which we have many, I just looked on my phone app and we've had 6 in the last 2 days, just small ones, nothing I felt, but this country moves a lot. So the lack of mortar allows the individual stones to move slightly during earthquakes. So kind of a natural way, method, technique, planned technique in terms of construction and building to save the work on top. Yeah, it's so interesting, I think. And if you walk around Tokyo, you can find hundreds of these, literally hundreds of these old remnants all over the city. This one is one that I particularly love. It's one of the old gates that was connected to the Edo Castle, and it takes you into a very famous venue called Budokan. And Budokan was originally built in 1964 for the Olympic Games. They had judo held in that venue. You can see it here with its very unique roof. But also the Beatles played there, Led Zeppelin, Queen, Diana Ross, Earth, Wind & Fire, Toto, Journey, Janet Jackson, Mariah Carey, Avril Lavigne. I mean, even Muhammad Ali was in a prize fight that was very important, and he won. It's a venue like no other in Japan. It's much like going to Madison Square Garden in New York, and they were just built 4 years apart. And it was slated to have the karate and judo events for the Tokyo 2020, but as we all know, that's going to have to wait. All right, everybody, do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.